A lot of people in Hollywood are perverts, they're drug addicts, they believe that they are gods.
This general feeling that people have that you're an anti-Semite, address that head on.
Judaism is a faith, Israel is a state, it is not above critique, and that what Bibi Netanyahu has done to the Palestinians since October 7th is a Holocaust. This was about power. This was about control. I'm not going to quiet my perspective on that to kowtow to whatever the prevailing narrative is of the New York Post.
Candace Owens is on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and she is not holding back. She takes on the anti-Semitism accusations, Hollywood hypocrisy, and the mess that is our current cultural narrative. Whether you agree with her or not, she is saying the quiet part out loud. Let's dive in and do not forget to stick around. Things get a little bit spicy.
But no such luck. The uncancelable Candace Owens is more successful, influential, and of course controversial than ever. And for the first time ever, she joins me here in the Uncensored studio. Candace Owens.
I'm so pleased to be here.
We meet in my lair at last.
I like it. And they sort of noted that in this new Joe Rogan economy, as they called it, authenticity sells. And people are either reading you to be authentic or they're reading you to be somebody that's just a clone. And so I think that's what people like about my podcast. And that's what I just try to do, is just be myself.
One of the narratives at the time was that you're anti-Semitic, as you know. And on Sunday, you were named Anti-Semite of the Year by the watchdog Stop Anti-Semitism. It said you blew the competition away with more votes than anyone in previous years. And their founder, Leora Rez, told the New York Post, Candace Owens, witch's brew of anti-Semitism drew from vile medieval blood libels, including claims that Jews drink Christian blood, conspiracies that Jews are pedophiles who control the media and are taking over America, modern toxic anti-Israel hysteria. General feeling that people have that you're an anti-Semite. Address that head on.
It's actually not even a general feeling. So that what's really remarkable is if you go underneath that post or go find the New York Post post, every single comment is in my favor. And so we've gotten to this point now where the charges of anti-Semitism are kind of going through the exact same routine that the charges of racism did back with BLM. Like, first, people took that very seriously. Like, if I said, Piers, you're a white supremacist, you would have just been astonished, because who wants to be called a white supremacist? But then you started to realize that this was about power, and this was about control, and this was about trying to manipulate people to take your perspective. And, you know, a lot of people, I think, shirked at that and kind of wanted to keep their head low. I didn't play that game with my own community. I was willing to take all of the figurative bullets with Black America, calling me a race traitor, a self-hating Black person, whatever it was. I don't view Jewish people to be some exception where you're allowed to now call everybody anti-Semites because you can't actually debate what Bibi Netanyahu is doing and why so many people around the world are not comfortable with it.
What is your view of Jewish people, of Judaism?
Yeah.
For the record, what's your view?
My view is that, Judaism is a faith, Israel is a state, and it is not above critique, and that what Bibi Netanyahu has done to the Palestinians since October 7th is a Holocaust.
All right, that's a huge claim to unpack. Comparing anything to the Holocaust is a loaded statement, but Candace is not just throwing out hyperbole here. Whether you agree with her or not, it's about calling for accountability. And if the media wants to argue this point, they should debate her on the substance, not just slap her with an anti-Semitism label and run with it. That's a little too convenient, huh?
There is a Holocaust that is being committed on Palestinian children and women. And I'm not going to quiet my perspective on that, to kowtow to whatever the prevailing narrative is of the New York Post.
Exactly. Criticizing a government does not mean you hate an entire group of people. Since when did calling our politicians or policies automatically make someone anti-Semitic? If that logic applied everywhere, half of Twitter would be banned for criticizing Joe Biden. Let's get real. It is a lazy argument designed to shut people up.
I think Bibi Netanyahu is a monster, and I think the people that are still standing by him and supporting him, I wouldn't want to have that on my conscience.
Let's turn to the Palestinians, who I think have been appallingly oppressed for many decades. I've made no secret of that. But what Hamas did on behalf of the Palestinian people,
Horrific.
October the 7th, was an utterly heinous terrorist attack.
Absolutely. No question about it. Like I said, I think their goal, and as they do, they have all these policies mowing the lawn, where they kill a certain amount of Palestinians every year. This is genocidal. The aims here are genocidal.
Your father-in-law, very highly well-regarded man in this country, Lord Michael Farmer, said the Israeli Defense Forces were acting in a highly accountable way in an extremely complex and difficult environment. We cannot forget that they have been forced to prosecute this war.
Social media completely transformed my perspective on what's happening in Israel and Palestine. And I'm disgusted with myself for not being more awake
Okay, but
to
that's
it.
interesting because can social media also, can it wrongly skew a narrative? In other words, can it reinforce one view, which is very quickly established? Could it be, I mean, you're a very smart person, but you say that you were affected by social media.
My instincts are telling me yes. But to go back to your question about whether or not social media can color you the wrong way, for the first time ever, we were just able to see what was happening in Palestine. I'm not married to hating Jews because I think what Bibi Netanyahu is doing is wrong. It has nothing to do with the Jewish people at large. This is a foreign state. He's allowed to be criticized in the same way that I criticize Biden, in the same way that you can criticize Trump. I'm criticizing Bibi Netanyahu, and I think the ICC got it correct in pursuing an arrest against him.
Do you think Hamas are a terrorist organization?
Absolutely.
You do?
If you kill civilians, you're a terrorist organization. That was always very
So
clear.
could they play any part in a government after all this, in your view?
I would really struggle to see how that would be a plausibility.
There's some of the other big stories at the moment. The shooting of the healthcare chief executive, and in particular, the weird reaction from the left of kind of immediately moving to, well, he's a hot assassin, Luigi Mangione, when in fact he's just a cold-blooded assassin.
Classic America.
Your old friend Don Lemon said this.
Do you think it's a gay thing? Because look, maybe we are over-indexing on the gay friends and text. All of my gay friends are like, someone said they better not hold a trial within 50 miles of Hell's Kitchen in New York.
Yeah, I got a couple hung jury texts. I've got some texts that aren't really appropriate for the Don Lemon show, so it might just be a gay thing.
And all I could think watching that was, really, guys, I mean, if this had been a female chief executive, would you be saying any of this stuff? If this hot assassin had executed a woman executive? I mean, no. Why are they doing this?
I have no idea why they're doing that. I have no idea why Don Lemon is still speaking. I mean, nothing that he does makes any sense anymore. So I'm not even sure what the aims of his new show are. But yeah, there have been tons of people that are commenting on his looks. Really, what it's fostering, which I think is more important, is a discussion on healthcare in general in America, which is another topic that people tend to not understand because.
Well, you seem both interestingly because you're married to an English guy, and we have the NHS here, the National Health Service, free for all. Which is not perfect by any means, but it does mean that if you walk out here today and you fall over and break your leg, you're going to get free healthcare in this country. You're not going to have to be having someone standing over you wanting payment before they'll give you a painkiller.
The U.S. healthcare system is a joke designed to make pharmaceutical companies' executives rich. There's no profit in healing people. Sick people yield large profits for large pharmaceutical companies, and insurance companies profit from finding ways to deny claims. We all know it, and it's pretty effing obvious.
Yeah.
And there's something amazing about that as a system. In America, I've had injuries. I've broke some ribs and stuff. And I remember somebody, as I was dozing in and out of consciousness, wanting to know how I'd pay for this. And it was quite scary, having been used to the NHS. That is real America, and I could afford to pay for it. But imagine if you couldn't.
That's exactly right. And what people don't understand is it's not a marker of a failed free market system. It's not a free market system at all. What's wrong with American healthcare is that it's a fully operating drug cartel. You're completely blindfolded. You have no idea how much anything costs. The insurance companies are making deals, a partnership between the government, the insurance companies, and the pharmaceutical giants. And they decide on pricing. They blindfold you. They send you in there. It's all about price gauging and seeing how much money they can make. So it's people are angry about our health insurance. And that's why you're seeing some of that rhetoric where like, well, nobody cares what happened to Brian Thompson. But even though I disagree with that rhetoric strongly, you should always condemn murder, especially cold-blooded murder, in the way that it happened.
Daniel Penny was the other big story where he was obviously a veteran Marine and he apprehended this guy who was going nuts on the subway and he did a sort of chokehold restraint on him and the guy dies. I never thought that Daniel Penny should have ever got to court. Fortunately, I felt justice was done. He's now been seen with Trump and everybody at the big football match at the weekend and so on. But what was interesting to me was, given your background with BLM, the leader of BLM in New York, Hawk Newsom, said, we need some black vigilantes. People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we doing the same? The framing of that as being loud, as if that was all that Jordan Neely was doing, when 9 out of 11 of the witnesses who were there at the time, including women and children, they all said it was the most terrifying experience they'd ever had on a subway.
It's completely not sensible, especially for people who have young kids like I do. Daniel Penny's a hero. This is exactly what you want to take place. The only lack of justice here is the fact that he had to go through the court system at all, as opposed to have just been, thank you so much.
The interesting thing to me has been the reaction to two things. One, the Daniel Penny case and the verdict. That despite all the efforts of people like that guy Hawke to whip everybody up into vigilante violence and mass protests, it never happened. There were no mass protests. We didn't see another George Floyd uprising of rage around the country at all. In fact, even on a tiny level, it never happened.
And now I'm anti-Semite of the year. These words don't have meaning anymore. So you have the media writing articles to themselves, the elitists, the journalists, and then you have the rest of the real world. And we kind of understand about what's happening. We want to have free speech. You want to communicate ideas. We thought it was so scary. It's Hollywood. Oh, they're so popular. Oh my God, it's Taylor Swift. Who could disagree? It's Beyonce. Who could ever say no to the Queen? And then suddenly Trump kind of exposed them as these like measly little people operating a machine behind the curtain. And you can't go back from that. You know, it's like I said, and this kind of, we can kind of steamroll this into that larger discussion about what's happening in Hollywood. We are realizing that they are just false idols, that these parties were taking place, the amount of drugs, having these Airbnb owners talk about, you know, the cocaine they allegedly found the next day, these debauchery parties, these openly sex fields. And so I think it's very good. Like I said, I think nature is healing. People are starting to see these people for what they are. A lot of people in Hollywood are perverts, they're drug addicts, they're idiots, and they believe in their own magic. They think that they are gods, and they are people that we need to turn off and focus on our families.
Love her or hate her, Candace Owens does not pull any punches. Whether it is calling out Hollywood, the media, or political hypocrisy, she's always unapologetic. But what do you think? Are these criticisms fair, or does she take it too far? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more bold and unapologetic content.